4, follow traffic, clear visual approach, runway 4 right, maintain 17, John Austin, 5 mile final. 17 till 5 out.
Adapting a key NBAA resource to the needs of today's business aviation industry and beyond. From the National Business Aviation Association, this is Flight Plan, sponsored by Varion. I'm Rob Finfrock with your trusted source for the very latest business aviation news and information. The NBAA Management Guide ranks among the association's most significant member benefits. Published by the Business Aviation Management Committee, or BAMC, the guide is widely regarded as an industry how-to manual of sorts, covering many important topics for business aviation management. NBAA regularly updates the guide as the industry continues to evolve. Earlier this year, the BAMC issued the latest revision to the NBAA Management Guide, and it was really more a complete overhaul to the guide's structure, with updated content supplied by NBAA's working groups. Joining me now are three members of the BAMC who made this revised guide a reality. We'll begin with William Ryder, Aviation Department Manager for Rich Products, who notes it was NBAA's Certified Aviation Manager Program, or CAM, which actually drove many of these changes.
During COVID, NBAA started their 6 months to CAM. And I just decided that what a better time than during COVID to start studying for the CAM exam. Once we got into the nuts and bolts of the study for the CAM, I found that the management guide was being referenced a majority of the time. You know, I believe it's about 80% of the questions come from the guide. So as I got deeper into it, we just felt the group that I was studying with, there were 6 of us, other professionals, industry leaders. The guide was very informative and helpful, but yet had a lot of drawbacks. And we didn't feel that some of the information that we were trying to retain coming from the guide was actually up to date. And we had a hard time following the information inside the guide. And so after completing the exam, I took it as the committee leader for the management tools subcommittee that an overhaul was needed for the guide. And there was a lot more to it than we thought.
Sherry Gallegos-Lewis is a sales executive for Web Manuals. She brought important perspectives to help make the NBAA Management Guide more informative for those new to the industry.
I just started in the industry after COVID, a little over 2 years ago now. Prior to that, my background was in coaching. I do see the same kind of effect that was in athletics happening here in business aviation with pilot shortages, maintenance, and just trying to get everyone up to speed. I'm just happy to be a part of it and get to kind of push things forward.
When you read the news, probably the most noteworthy change that we've seen really revolves around talent. And that's whether it's pilots, maintenance technicians, administrative staff and support, dispatchers, flight attendants, and so on. They're in short supply.
My third guest is Joseph Seymour, Chief Pilot of Executive Flight Operations at the Boeing Company, who helped merge information from the previous iteration of the guide into the new format.
When you think about the guide, it's a phenomenal resource to provide information to new entrants in the industry, the managers working with the new talent that's coming in to teach and train, but also give them the tools to be successful. So when you think about business management, you think about those core areas of the guide. Not only did we need to reorganize, but we needed to make sure that the content was relevant and up to date. And that's going to be one of the key elements as we go forward here on the BAMC, is gathering that user feedback to make sure that we're providing the best resource possible for the membership.
Bill, I'd also like to note a fourth member of the BAMC team, Justin Kinkle, who was instrumental in assembling the revised NBAA Management Guide. Justin had a previous commitment and was unable to join the conversation today.
Joe and Justin spent countless hours. I think Joe is over the Atlantic Ocean with many of the revisions coming over at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So he spent a lot of time really thumbing through the guide and piecing together what he thought would fit well from the old guide to the new guide. And again, Justin was right on his heels, making sure the tweaks were made. And that's the reason why we have such a great product now is for the efforts they had put into it originally. And then Sherry came in, and with her background at Web Manuals, she did just a stand-up job really putting this back together for us and meeting that deadline.
So you've met the team. Coming up, we'll get into what's new in the guide and what changes will be coming down the road. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Take your aviation operations to new heights. Introducing Varion, formerly known as ATP, your ultimate partner in achieving maximum aircraft uptime. At Varion, we understand the challenges faced by everyone in aviation. Our industry-leading technology solutions revolutionize aircraft management, so there's no more waiting, no more wondering, and no more wasted effort. Get real-time visibility of your maintenance, inventory, operations, and regulatory data right at your fingertips with an easy-to-use system, backed by a team of experts with deep aviation knowledge offering 24/7, 365 support. After 50 years in the business, we have built a growing reputation for getting our customers more aircraft uptime. That's why thousands of aircraft operators worldwide have already discovered the power of Varion. Say goodbye to downtime and hello to increased efficiency and profitability. Visit Varion.com to learn more. Varion, let's get you more uptime.
We're back now with Sherry Gallegos-Lewis, Joe Seymour, and Bill Ryder, and our discussion about the latest revisions to the NBAA Management Guide. And let's get to those changes, Bill. You mentioned that studying for the CAM revealed the need to update the NBAA Management Guide, which is used as part of that training. I understand the format of the revised guide now aligns with the CAM study guide. Why was that an important change to make?
We noticed as a group the flow of the information in the guide was just all over the place. And we found it hard to maintain our studies because we just felt like we're going back and forth and it just had no rhyme or reason at the time. So after the exam was over, I worked with Joe originally because Joe and I have been on the BAMC for about 8 years together and members of the Management Tools Subcommittee. And I said, what do you think? Should we venture out and change the guide and sort of have the flow mirror something different? Do we change things? And Joe's the one that brought up, referencing the CAM exam as well and sort of following those domains for the content. Countless hours were spent just going through the old management guide and sort of extracting the information that was located in other chapters and sort of coming back to what we have now under the domains of administrative, business management, leadership, human resources. We broke up flight operations to just flight operations domestically and internationally. And then the last domain for CAM that we had was aircraft maintenance and facilities. And again, there was information in the guide, not always up to date, not always, to what we needed today and what changes have been coming through. But we felt that change would certainly benefit the industry moving forward. Members and industry leaders can reference the guide and have a great tool of best practices.
Sherry, you came into the process of revising the guide about halfway into it, which proved to be just the right time to help bring everything together.
Yeah, coming into it a little bit late, I was able to kind of give a fresh perspective. And then with my background at Web Manuals and seeing lots and lots of documents and looking at the document itself and going through the tools with Web Manuals at my fingertips, I saw the opportunity to kind of fix that flow a little bit more and make it a lot more intuitive for the reader. I myself need a pretty good intuitive way to work through a document to retain that information. And so I was able to utilize my resources and help kind of restructure not only the format of the document, as well as on the back end, as we're updating these things, make it a lot easier for everyone else to get through the table of contents and the flow of the table of contents and navigating through it, as well as hyperlinks and other updates inside the manual itself. So that was really nice to get to help with that and see those changes make such a drastic improvement.
And Joe, I understand that publication of the revised NBAA Management Guide isn't the last step of this process. How will the BAMC solicit feedback from the business aviation community on any future changes?
That is the key to keeping this guide relevant and the resource that we want it to be. You know, when you look at what Sherry said, the core objective here was to make the document more usable. It was to make it more intuitive. And like we said, to make sure that there's relevant content for future generations of leaders within our industry. And so feedback is going to be critical to making sure that the document stays relevant. And there's no better feedback than all of the users working through the guide on a daily basis. You know, you think of the breadth and the depth of operators within NBAA's membership, and they vary vastly in size and scope of their work. And so what we'd like to do as people work through the new guide is start with just the initial feedback. You know, this is one perspective on how the guide should look and how we could enhance it. There's going to be a lot of viewpoints. And so we want to start with a membership survey after everyone's had time to digest the new content and the new layout. We want all those eyes to bring back opportunities that they see would be valuable for future revisions. And speaking of future revisions, the work that the team has put into reformatting the guide also allows us to make more timely updates. It's going to be easier to revise. So as we look towards gathering just regular daily revisions, we're going to deploy an online change recommendation form inside of the NBAA website, where a user can go in and they can identify a page and suggest content or suggest an edit or maybe point out a typo even. We want all of those eyes to bring back that information. So that's going to be absolutely critical to the success of our guide going forward. And then lastly, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that the content within the guide is the work and effort of a number of committees across NBAA. And they're providing the information. We're just consolidating. We're updating. We're trying to keep everyone organized as we go forward. So we're going to get into this yearly revision cycle as each of the committees provide us input to get the edits out there. And again, the industry's changing fast. We got a lot of new talent coming in. We have many new leaders, many new perspectives. So annually, we want to make sure that we keep the content up to date through those various mechanisms.
Another step in that plan is to eventually make the NBAA Management Guide a fully digital resource, right, Sherry?
Moving to a digital platform is a necessity. You know, we've been talking about the young professionals and the new talent coming in, and paper documents are kind of a thing of the past, and I like to call them locked documents, locked PDFs. They're not as intuitive or easy to navigate. A digital platform where these change requests are easily made, someone can come in and they can see something and they can just shoot it over, and then it will consolidate all of that information for us to be able to go through, instead of kind of having everything in different areas and disorganized, and allows us to easily update the document for them and push out those new notifications. So it just kind of allows for more streamlined communication between the end user and the readers, but also all of those other committees that are giving their input and the ones that are actually in charge of that content and making sure that it does reflect best practices. And so overall, if the ultimate goal is to put all of that together and create this system that just really allows us all to work together for the future.
What else should our listeners know about the new NBAA Management Guide, Sherry?
I think that one big thing that this is just the beginning of the revisions and the possibilities that are out there. And I'm excited to get everyone's feedback on what they see, what they like, and what they don't like. Because, we're a group of four and we all have our perspectives and expertise, but that doesn't mean that we have all the answers. And we're really looking forward to being able to create something that's for everyone and that's easy to use and exciting and can help everyone become better and accessible with the CAM program and better studying for operations to get those best practices out there and reflect for them and their operations.
Joe, what are your thoughts?
As Sherry said, the feedback is critical. Content can be added, can be modified, can be deleted. And we'd love to hear ideas of where the users would find value. So, again, as Sherry said, we're all ears. I'd love to hear it, and we want to keep driving value for the membership.
Bill, how about you?
We have a lot of support from NBAA leadership to the point where Ed Bolin graciously had given us a foreword to the new guide, which just represents leadership's commitment to the industry. And I think it's important to recognize that because, it does take a lot. And he supports our endeavors to build a guide that not only has continuous improvement and best practices, but we surround our information based on safety, security, and again, the best practices that the industry needs to be better in the future. And this is what it's almost like a legacy thing. It's what can we do for those coming up the ranks behind us? We're seeing ourselves through to the end, maybe a few more years in the industry, and you have folks like Sherry and the rest of the team that are just beginning, and we want to give them a nice platform so they can build on it, and especially the young professionals, the YoPros. We want them to be a big part of this guide moving forward because ultimately it's their future. How do they want to see it, and how do they want to leave it for the next generation?
And with that, I think all that's left is to tell everyone where they can find this new resource. NBAA members may download the new NBAA Management Guide at nbaa.org/management. And be sure to leave your feedback on what you would like to see in future editions of the guide. With so many matters at the forefront of our industry, such as sustainability, DEI, and ensuring the resource is useful not only for larger flight operations, but small operators as well, there's a lot to keep Bill, Sherry, Joe, and Justin busy. And that's the latest from NBAA. Remember, you can subscribe to all Flight Plan episodes at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts, including by asking your virtual assistant or connected device. Of course, you can also download Flight Plan directly from nbaa.org. I'm Rob Finfrock. Thanks for listening, and join us next time for a new episode of Flight Plan.
Right base, sending out 3500.
We got him inside. We're still on 170.